Entrepreneur, welcome to your Entrepreneur Resources Show. I'm very excited that you're here with me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Venice, your host, and here at your Entrepreneur Resources, we discover the no-fluff action steps to help you avoid all the overwhelm and all the BS out there, connecting you with the right mentors, resources, and tools, helping you every step of the way on your entrepreneurial journey. We go live here twice a week, interviewing different entrepreneurs and experts on all areas of business. So make sure to join our Facebook group and look out for the events inside your Entrepreneur Resources page. You can find all the links in the description box. Today, I have a very special guest with me. It is Thomas Wurm. How are you doing today?
Oh, so good. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So Thomas helps heart-centered entrepreneurs release the root cause of their anxiety so they can rescue their business from failure. Thomas uses mental emotional release, coaching, and quantum physics in his program called the Passion Enterprise Accelerator. In this interview with Thomas, we're going to be discussing how unconscious limiting beliefs create negative emotions and derail us from what we truly want in life. How do we reprogram ourselves so we can achieve the abundance we deserve? So let's dive right into talking all about the mental health of entrepreneurship. Before we do, though, I would love to hear more about your story and your journey. Start wherever you want to start.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I was a wildland firefighter for the last 15 years. And, that involves like jumping out of helicopters, cutting trees, being out in the wilderness. So it's definitely not the city ladder thing that everybody thinks of. It's totally different. And through that, I had my own struggles with anxiety and PTSD and those kinds of things. And what led me to what I do now is really my own healing crisis is what I call it, and my passion for writing. And it's just I started helping firefighters, and I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to expand that because I was an entrepreneur, and so now I take what I did with the firefighters and I expanded that into helping entrepreneurs with their anxiety, with imposter syndrome, or whatever the really like seed problem is that's really holding them back. Because there's so much to talk about in mental health, especially when we go into subconscious programming and really, like you said, I think the mental health is missing the quantum mechanics, the energy healing, the deeper spirituality of it, and that's definitely my passion is when I'm helping people using alternative therapy tools. Yeah.
That's so incredible. I love that you were a firefighter. I think you're the only firefighter I know in the whole entire world. That's amazing. That's super cool. I would love to hear more about how quantum physics kind of work with all these different elements, because I'm sure someone in the audience is thinking, wow, quantum physics, that sounds like the most complicated science out there. So would love to
Right.
hear more about it.
Yeah, so really what I'm talking about is one of the main techniques I use is mental emotional release, and that involves going into our subconscious timeline. And so we actually go back to, say, the first time we were angry, and when you ask your unconscious mind the first time you're angry, the answer is really surprising. Like, you're probably going to be around 2 years old or 5 years old, or even like during your birth or past life. And so when we're using or talking about quantum mechanics, we're really talking about taking your mind from right now and going back to that time and learning a lesson, because that lesson, that learning, it changes that charge, that emotional charge with that event, and suddenly the emotion's gone, like the baggage is gone of that event, and there's a lesson to where you can actually heal that wound. And so that's where the quantum mechanics comes in, is being open to that. Time is not exactly what we think it is, and we can actually change our past in a, maybe not in a physical sense, but definitely in a mental, emotional, spiritual sense. We're changing your past, which changes your present and your future, right?
That's amazing. That's super cool. So you kind of dive into the past and also the future and just kind of link everything together with quantum physics.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we do is release the past, the anger, sadness, fear, any sort of major limiting beliefs. We can talk more about that, how all that's created. Um, but after that's released, we actually go into the future and we drop in events that we want to happen, like getting more clients, like our business getting to 10K, writing our first book, like whatever it is that entrepreneur wants. We actually go into the future and drop those events in there, so your unconscious mind actually thinks it's already happened. So it's like the habits are just going to become unconscious. Because I think the biggest thing to explain here is that there's this goal getter and goal setter. There's part of us like, I want this in my business, I want this in my new clientele, or I'm this pivot, or whatever's going on inside what you're doing. And really, that's like 5%. That's like your conscious mind is making that goal, where the habits, the behaviors, like how you're feeling, your actual state of being, that's 95% of it, and that's all unconscious. So that's where the real change happens, right?
Wow, incredible. I love that. So let's dive a little bit deeper. You talked about imposter syndrome. What other examples of unconscious limiting beliefs are there?
I think the big one this is the most common one, is really the like coming back down to, I'm not good enough. Like, who am I to start this business? Who am I to be a coach? Who am I to be a spiritual entrepreneur, or in finance? Like, whatever you're doing, I think that comes up for a lot of people when they're starting, is like, who am I to do this? Or sometimes it comes down to, maybe you're on the wrong path because you're trying to prove yourself to a parent or a sibling or to somebody else, and you're not really being congruent with yourself, with your highest light, with your path. And that's where we can get kind of gummed up, right? We're really not on the path, we're not congruent. And that's where a lot of the anxiety, the sadness comes in, because we're not connecting with our highest self, or the highest version of ourself.
Yeah, that's actually very true. I love that you brought up, the thing about proving yourself, and that is coming out of like a negative mindset, right? You're rooting your business on something that is negative, and you would just be like, heading towards a negative direction. So what do you think, are the common effects of these unconscious limiting beliefs? Like how do these limiting beliefs make people feel? I know anxiety is definitely a big one, but are there any other, emotions that are evoked from these
Yeah.
limiting beliefs?
Yeah, so I think, a major one that comes to mind is really, we have this big passion for a project, or we're going into a new direction in our business, or there's a lot of work to be done, right? We got to start taking action. And maybe what I've seen a lot in the entrepreneur world is, there's like the meditation, the journaling, we got all that down, but then actually taking the action and doing it, it's like they're scared to. Or maybe there's a whole bunch of excuses of like, well, this came up and that came up, and I didn't actually create my content today, I didn't actually do any writing, I didn't actually call any clients, because there's this voice in the back of the head of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or there's this. And I guess the big thing is, sometimes we're not even aware, it's just we're procrastinating, or we get fearful right before we do our live, and it's like, those kinds of things are a telltale sign that there's some baggage, there's something to deal with in that mental emotional body. And I think what's so interesting is how, like, our highest self brings down this spiritual energy, this inspiration, right? And when we have things in our mental emotional bodies that aren't so congruent, that maybe is an old belief, or sadness or fear or something, that energy actually gets changed. And so when it comes down to the physical, it's different than you actually want it to. And I think that's a big, like, if the business isn't going the way you want it to, it's something internally. Because if we go back to quantum physics, as above, so below, everything is an internal representation of you. And once you get to that point where you realize, like, okay, this thing in business, actually, there's something inside of me blocking it energetically, quantum physically, and you change it, you'll see the changes like in front of your eyes. It's pretty amazing.
Wow, that's amazing. Have you seen any examples, or have you worked with any clients or anybody that you're able to truly get them out of anxiety and all the PTSD and everything, and get them to where they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what I love about the work I do, is the clinical studies done with depression, specifically depression, the clinical studies that were done, CBT, the classical therapy, there is like 70% success rate, some rehospitalization percentages, and things like that, where that's pretty good. And that's a great tool, that's awesome. And what I do with the mental emotional release in the case studies, there was 100% success and zero rehospitalization, zero stuff. And I know that sounds pretty big. And personally, what I've seen in myself, and what I've seen, especially my firefighter clients, where the anxiety, PTSD is like really hardcore, that stuff's gone. And it's not that I'm treating that, or I'm not working on the anxiety. I don't work on medication, anything like that. It's I'm way alternative compared to a therapist or anybody like that. That's not what I do. Um, it's simply releasing the energy that's stuck in our mental emotional bodies has this much effect on us, where those major problems are gone. And I have seen that in a lot of my clients where maybe they drive a certain section of highway where there was a really bad fire and they'll see smoke when it's not there. Or I've had entrepreneurs that have been stuck for 10 years not writing a book, and we do a breakthrough session and they start writing their book. And it's like this major transformation, right? So yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, that's so incredible. I love that you're making, positive changes in the world and you really see it reflected with your clients and people that you've worked with. And that's amazing. So, do you want to share a little bit more about how entrepreneurs that's listening right now, how do you suggest that we reprogram ourselves to overcome these different obstacles? Like what are some steps or tips that we can, take?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing to really frame this is that, so we're talking about the unconscious, and that implies that it's really hard to be conscious of it, right? Like there's your conscious mind is not going to know the exact thing that's wrong, and this is where we need to go. I would say if you're working with yourself, is connecting through meditation and getting the mind quiet enough and start speaking to your body, because all of the stuck energy, the limiting beliefs, the negative emotions, they're in your body, they're in your neurology and your nervous system. And so if you're able to ask your body, like, hey, what is this problem? Even like, sometimes you have a neck pain or a stomach pain or something. This is a telltale sign that there's something mental, emotional going on. And so if we can get deep into meditation and really create a practice, that's step one, is like really, getting deeper into that nervous system and asking. And honestly, I think one of the best ways is connecting with your highest self or God, or getting some sort of spiritual power to help you unlock that potential and listen to your body. So that's like step one. And I think step two is really journaling,
Oh wait,
writing
sorry. Can
out.
I just want to ask a little bit more about step
Yeah, go ahead.
one, with meditation. Because I have meditated before. I don't do it often. And I know there are entrepreneurs that practice it every day or every week. Some that probably have never meditated in their lives. Do you have any tips as to how to get started, or, how do you do it? How do you meditate?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would say there's a couple different levels of, like, level one is really like, let's quiet the mind and just come back to like the void or the nothingness and really connect with that, and really let our monkey mind kind of go. That's step one. That's like the hardest part, right? That's tough. And every meditation, you're going to go through that a little bit. And I think there's more after that, there's more passive meditation where maybe you're just enjoying that moment, you're being at peace, and there's more active meditation where maybe we're visualizing something, we're doing energy work, maybe we're working with the highest self, or there's like putting things into our future, like manifestation. You hear a lot of entrepreneurs talking about that. So there's kind of three layers to it, and for me, I think the biggest thing is I think I do meditate for at least an hour most days, 30 minutes like minimum. Otherwise, I really feel my day kind of slogging, or being sluggish. And I think the biggest thing is connecting with that spiritual power and connecting with that future that you want. And I would say any Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff, like just watch Dr. Joe Dispenza, buy some of his meditations, or I have a whole like Heartfire meditation from one of my books. It's like a 10 series guided meditation. Um, that would be an amazing place to start, because that's going to teach you how to connect with your highest self, bring down spiritual energy, and actually release the energy yourself. So
Yeah.
that would be my suggestion, is guided meditations to start with. Yeah.
That's super incredible. I would definitely link your book in the description box for anyone that's interested in checking them out as well. Okay, so step two is journaling, right?
Yeah, and I think journaling comes to like after meditation. Sometimes there's like something comes up that's like, oh my God, I got to write this down, or maybe I don't understand that yet. And writing it out, maybe journaling for, gosh, even if it's just a checklist for what you got to do in your business the next day, or just writing anything, writing forgiveness letters. Like you can take journaling a million different ways. Um, but I would just say journaling every day and writing about like how you feel, like what's not happening, and who do you have to be? I think that's the big thing. Like, what's the highest vision of myself, and what do I need to let go of to let that like manifest, to let that become. And I think to kind of hit this really, to go a little bit deeper on this, is I think society has gotten a lot of things backwards where we have to have the money, we got to have the car, we got to have the house to be happy. And this is actually really opposite. We really need to come back to our state of being of who do I want to become so I can have, have the business, have the clients, have the money, all those things. It really comes to, being first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually really agree because I think there are such expectations and, nowadays with like the world getting closer and closer and we can check out all these successful entrepreneurs online, Tony Robbins, Amy Porterfield, Marie Forleo, everyone's like, yes, I want to be on Oprah. But then that's not where we should start, right? We should start from our inner self and understanding what we want and be happy, be content, like tune into ourselves before wanting to achieve these huge goals. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. It's really going internally first because, again, coming back to that quantum mechanics, as above, so below, and what we feel inside, what we think inside is literally going to show up in our life. And what's so interesting is these things will show up over and over and over again until we learn the lesson. And that's we got to do our work internally as entrepreneurs. Otherwise, the business isn't going to work out. I truly think being an entrepreneur is probably the most spiritual act you could ever do because you're literally taking an idea and you're manifesting it into physical reality, and that's alchemy. That's what we're doing, right? And it's pretty powerful. You got to be on a spiritual path, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that you talked about that because that kind of brings me to my next question. A lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people out there, they talk about visualization, and that kind of tunes into the future, right? Do you have any tips regarding, how to visualize, or should we even, sit down, and how often, and how do we do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. And so I think the biggest thing that's a little misunderstood about this is that so the thoughts are super important. Like thoughts are real; they do have form. And so when we're thinking about the future, it's important to see that future successfully. We want to if we can't see that future successfully, then we probably need to go in the past and do a little bit of work, and that's totally okay. We've all been there. Um, when we can get to the point where that future is successful, it's not enough just to think about it and see it. We really need to have an elevated emotion about it. We really need to have this gratitude, this love, this. I really recommend heart math, people checking out heart math and doing the meditations and learning how to open their heart center and create this higher vibration in their body, because now we're talking about thoughts, in the future, and having that state of being of what it's going to feel like when you're so grateful, when you're so happy because you have that result. Now we're talking about like this magnetic attraction. And so when you start doing this every single day of like, hey, I want 10K in my business, right? Or whatever it is. I want that certain amount of month or that expansion. It's really about having that elevated emotion and the visualization put together. And I think some programs kind of miss that, right?
For sure. Okay, so we have talked about visualization, we've talked about meditation and journaling. I feel like that kind of all ties into understanding yourself and, like truly hone into your inner self and understanding where you want to be and where you like how you want to feel even for the future. So I know a lot of entrepreneurs have morning routines. Do you recommend having a morning routine? And if you do, like how do we even set one up?
Yeah, absolutely. I love routine. And honestly, if anybody's like seriously suffering from anxiety, like routine is going to help so much with that specifically. But I really do, for me, what I do is, I do wake up early, and I'm not perfect. I have my days like, oh crap, I missed my routine, right? And I feel it, I know it. And the next day I'm back on plan. And the big thing is really like having a certain time you wake up and having water in the first thing in the morning. That's a huge one because now you're getting your creative juices in your brain hydrated, right? We're hydrating the body, and doing some sort of meditation to set up your day to be successful and to like actually watch your day play out exactly the way you want it. Hey, you want like 2 sales calls scheduled, like visualize that every single morning. So meditation and maybe a workout or a breakfast or it's really up to the person and how they want to feel. But I really recommend like taking a look at Chinese medicine and looking at like kind of the cycles of the day and how our energy is in our body. And if we can sync up to that, and like there's certain times of the day when we should take a nap. There's certain days or certain parts of the day where we should really be focused and really doing like hard work, like on the computer creating content or whatever it is. And there's a time for meals, and there's like Chinese medicine is really going to explain that really clearly. So I think the biggest thing too is the circadian rhythm and sunlight and sleeping and all of that. That part of the routine is so critical to sleep, the meditation and getting good food, right? So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Okay. What do you mind telling us a little bit more about this Chinese medicine? Because I have some experience because obviously I'm from Hong Kong. I've like, I've encountered that a lot, but maybe entrepreneurs that's listening right now, maybe they have no idea what that is. Do you mind
Yeah,
just sharing a little bit more about it?
absolutely. And I'll tell you, a little bit of my story is that,
Mm-hmm.
um, when I had severe anxiety and some PTSD stuff going on, I'm more associated with the anxiety. My PTSD wasn't super hardcore like veterans or anything like that, but the anxiety was serious. And I didn't want to go to like a traditional doctor or therapist, so I actually started with acupuncture, which is a form of Chinese medicine. Is kind of the main thing of like we've all seen in the movies of like needles getting stuck in weird places and some like witch doctor weirdo, right? That's what people think, right? And what this is like this extremely old ancient healing system from China. And for me, acupuncture is one of the most amazing healing arts because it really does tap into your neurology, your nervous system, um, and that it's not just like it really is a mind, body, spirit medicine. So there's the physical body, the mental, emotional body, and the spiritual body that the acupuncturist is working with. And so there's this holistic approach to food as medicine, to herbs, to supplements, to the needle work and the energy healing, and maybe even some shamanic like journeying and release work like that through, trance work, meditation, homework. So there's this major holistic program that's going on with it, and I would say that's always the best place to start if you're dealing with something. Like go to acupuncturist, and my biggest thing is I would suggest finding somebody that's like as woo woo as possible, like more into the energy, more into not just the needles, right? Because there are some acupuncturists that are like that, are just into the needles, and that's not going to get you the same result as somebody actually bringing in spiritual energy to heal you. There's a whole different level to it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about your books a little bit because you mentioned that you helped a client overcome her, her limiting beliefs, and she finally managed to write her book. And I know you have a few books as well. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of my books are a little more tiered toward firefighters, and but my second one is for anybody, and that one's called Awakened by Heartfire, and it's wildland fire stories and the secrets to the universe. And really, what I did is I took all those crazy experiences as a firefighter and I broke them down more into a spiritual sense of like what was the lesson there? What was I like jumping out of a helicopter and getting chased off the mountain by lightning, like or getting chased by a fire down some canyon, like all these crazy things that I went through. Um, I meditated on. I was like, what was the lesson there? What can I learn from that? And I really unpacked a lot of my fire career and created like a meditation system of like I really broke down what I was doing. How did I connect with my gut? How did I connect with my heart center and like make split second decisions that saved my life? And so I really do this leadership system would be so powerful for any entrepreneur because it's all about connecting with your gut, connecting with your heart center, and connecting with your highest self, and getting congruent in that, and learning how to lead from, I guess, learning yourself, like leading yourself before you lead others. Just like if we're working with clients, we got to do the work first, right? And the biggest thing with that book is there's a whole meditation anthology, like I was talking about before. There's 10 guided meditations that walk you through the techniques. So there's the book, there's the meditations. And really the next step is like a breakthrough session, which is like let's go deep in the subconscious mind and actually go into your timeline and release all that. So that's kind of like the next level. If like the book will release it, right?
Hmm.
So the book is really powerful. Yeah, I love that book. It was a tough write, really hard, but I really do love that book.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations. Writing a book is not a small achievement. It is definitely a lot of, your heart and soul going into the book. I published a few books as well, and gosh, I spent so much time. But I guess when you get into the zone, like it just, flows through you, and you have all these things you want to share, experiences and all the tips and all the different strategies and everything. So I love that. Speaking about book publishing, I know you have a free gift for us. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's the ultimate aspiring author guide, and it's really like the 3 steps to, if you're a coach or holistic or spiritual entrepreneur that's like you're at that level where like, okay, I'm ready to take my business just one level up. And it's like, well, that next step is writing a book so you can get on more podcasts, you can do the speaking, whatever you want to move into, but you need that book first. Like this is where I really want to focus on helping entrepreneurs is the mental health, but also let's have a serious goal that's going to not just help you release work, but get into the future and make something really big happen for your business. And so that free gift really has, the 3 steps to really make sure that you start the book out knowing that it's going to matter, that it's going to matter to the reader, and it's also going to make an impact in your business. So I think there's like, when we write books, there's either, we write it to the market, right, and it's going to make money, and that's cool, everybody, whatever. But if we can blend that with like this heart passion, this like really big healing journey, now we're talking about a book that makes a difference in your life, the reader's life, and your business, and that's what we want to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And where can people connect with you if they want to find out more about what you offer and all your books and everything online?
Yeah, the best place is on Instagram at Mountain Mind Tricks, and there's underscores between that, so Mountain Mind Tricks, you'll find it.
Hmm.
The other place is breakthroughwritersblock.com. That is going to be the best place to check me out, and Instagram. And I'm relaunching my podcast and going through kind of a transition with that. And so in June it will be the Shamanic Author Podcast. And right now, the Sacred Ancestry Podcast, there's about 50 episodes there's so much value in there. If you're resonating with any of this energy stuff, kind of more spiritual entrepreneurship, then yeah, you'll love that podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure to put everything in the link, the description box down below. So make sure to check those out. Thank you, Thomas, so much for being on your Entrepreneur Resources show. For those of you that want to get all the notes and you're just mind blown right now, make sure to get the summary of the interview in the description box as well. We've got our live interviews with experts here twice a week, so make sure to stay tuned and join our community on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll chat with you very soon, and have a great rest.